Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, a disturbing classic. I'm going to be talking about The Cement Garden by Ian McEwan. So I read this as part of my Disturbing Books project, where I'm reading disturbing books that have been recommended by viewers in the comments. So this is a book I was aware of, partly because of the movie adaptation, which I haven't seen, but also because Ian McEwan is such a well-known author. Really popular and influential and respected author, certainly in the UK and I think internationally as well. This is actually the first book by him that I've read. So I did read a short story of his years and years ago, which was in one of those pan horror books, like horror short story collections, edited by the wonderfully named Herbert van Thal. So if you live in the UK, you'll be familiar with those, that you used to always find them in charity shops. And I had one which had an Ian McEwan short story in, which was really, really disturbing. It left quite an impression on me. And The Cement Garden has, a reputation as being quite a disturbing book as well. And it certainly had its moment. So I thought it was a genuinely excellent book. And I could see why it made such an impression when it was first released. So it was McEwan's first novel. It was released in 1978 when he, I think, was 30. And it's a really interesting book. And it definitely feels like a book that was written by a fairly young writer. So I would, when I looked up how old he was when he wrote it, I was actually surprised he was as old as 30. It has the feel of a book from quite a young person, partly I think because it's about young people. So it's about a family of children, so two teenagers, a boy and a girl, and two younger siblings, who end up left to their own devices, shall we say, one summer, because both their parents have died. So the father has died before the events of the book, and then the mother dies at the start of this summer. And if you think about, classic children's books are often about kids in that kind of situation. They often talk about children who are for some reason separated from adult society, and can do what they want to. And usually in kid books, that liberation is a wonderful thing and leads to great adventures. I'm a big fan personally as a kid was a big fan of the Swallows and Amazons books by Arthur Ransom, which are about just that. They're about children in the summer, away from the adults, doing great stuff. So The Cement Garden uses that kind of idea, but is a much, much darker book, and if you read it you'll know why. So it's very dark indeed. I'm not convinced it's that disturbing, or at least it wasn't that disturbing to me personally. Although I can see why people find it disturbing. So, the mother dies at the start of the book, and the kids are left, trying to figure out what they should do. Should they report her death? And clearly they decide not to. They decide to hide the body. And just do what they want for the summer. So it does capture that kind of dreamy adolescent summer kind of vibe of just lazing around and living life as you want to, without any rules and things like that. But as it progresses, it gets darker and darker. And indeed, there is a disturbing scene right near the start that involves the kids. And that is something that kind of comes back to plague the book. It's a repeating motif, if you like, in the book as it progresses. So yes, a book that uses concepts from children's books, but kind of flips them on their head and talks about the dark side of kids having freedom in a similar way, I suppose, to something like Lord of the Flies, but it goes to even darker places than that. So yeah, definitely a book that comes with trigger warnings, and I will leave those in the description for the video. But I thought it was excellent, and one of the things that I think makes it work so well is the prose is really, really simple. So McEwan has a wonderful style. He tends to use very short sentences, and there's just a simplicity to the writing that means that the meaning of the events can kind of sink into you. But there's also this kind of hazy summer dreamlikeness to the whole thing. It all feels slightly surreal. And there are moments, certainly, when I was questioning whether what I was reading was actually happening or if it was in the imagination of the main character. And there's this incredible tension in the book which just gradually ramps up and up and up as it progresses, partly because the things that the kids are getting involved in are getting darker and darker, but also because that just as time passes, the chances of them being able to just continue this facade of kind of living without adults is going to erode and fracture at some point. And there are moments in the book where it really feels like they are living completely separately from the rest of society. There's almost a kind of pastoral feel to it, whereas in fact they're living in the middle of a town. And every so often McEwan rams that home again. It brings back to you the fact that actually they are surrounded by adults who just aren't really noticing what's going on. And I think that's one of the things that gives the book additional impact, the fact that the kids in this book are able to do what they do without adults intruding, despite the fact that there are loads of adults around who could intrude. So yeah, a really genuinely excellent book. Only short, it's less than 150 pages long, but really, really impactful. I thought it was truly great, and it has what I think is one of the best last lines I have ever read. The last line of this book is so perfect. I dropped the book in amazement when I read that last line. I really thought it was wonderful. Okay, time for a random book from the shelf. So I thought I'd go with one by another Ian, and indeed another Ian whose first book, like Ian McEwan's The Cement Garden, was a short, dark book that caused a big splash. So that author, of course, is Ian Banks, whose first book was The Wasp Factory. So this is one of his later novels. This is Transition, which came out in 2009. I bought this when it came out at Edinburgh Airport, funnily enough, because it's got a plane on the front there, and I still haven't read it. So it's been sat on my shelves for a very long amount of time. I do need to get to it at some point. Rather wonderfully, it's got a sticker on the front here which says you can get exclusive extra content free with the Ian Banks iPhone app. And there's even at the back of the book a QR code, so you can try and scan that if you want to. I did scan it and it doesn't work anymore, which is probably no surprise. But it did amuse me that this book has sat on my shelves unread for 14 years, but is still perfectly functional, whereas the QR code at the back not so functional. Anyway, yeah, let me know if you've read this one and what you thought of it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you've read The Cement Garden or other books by Ian McEwan. I feel like I should read more by him now I've read that one. But yeah, anyway, hope you found it interesting. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.